Hello, welcome back to Podium. Rich and Hannah here with you for this marathon preview for the World Athletics Championships in Tokyo. We've gone daily from now until the end of the event, so make sure you're following, subscribing to the pod to make sure you get the Podium Podlet at the end of the day's action. So 4 preview episodes: sprints, endurance, marathons and field. And this one's quite special because we've linked up with Paula's run club. Paula Radcliffe, former world record holder, 2005 world champion, and Chris Thompson, Olympian all-round legend, 10,000 metres European silver medalist, of course. And that we're so happy to have you guys on. We love the pod. We gave you the big sell.
Thank you.
It's great. You get to come in on and talk about, we love all the advice that you're giving to everyone else as well, and the guests that you get on your podcast. But today you get to geek out a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why we started doing the podcast. We love the community, and that's really what we're trying to build and bring together. We're trying not to make it this is what you need to do, but more this is where you can come if you've got lots of. Every marathon runner has their own little paranoias and anxieties, particularly as the big race approaches or if you're going into something new. So we kind of aim to try to answer everything. We can't promise that we'll find a solution. But because it is the marathon and we've kind of grown up with it, done a lot with it, kind of we've tried out lots of different ways. And then also when I came back and tried to finish off the 6 this year, I was hitting problems that I didn't have on the elite side, because the elites are of course looked after completely differently to the masses, and things like drinking out of a paper cup I found very, very hard.
No, but I think you guys having a podcast makes so much sense. I mean, I think Paula could be the only person in the world that could control Tomo on a podcast.
I don't know that I can do that.
Uncontrollable.
Do you know what, Hannah, as well, as Richard introduced me and said all-round legend Chris, and your face was just, is it?
Why you're laughing. Yeah.
Well, this is why, again, I think we are trying not to take ourselves too seriously as well, and that's part of it. Yes, Paula is a marathon icon and legend and ex-world record and all these things, and I offer a little bit of a bridge, but also just the fact that, you know, we love marathon, we love running, but we're also kind of, is the right word, stewards, or we're still learning it. The sport is evolving, which we'll get into, and I think the unique side of what Paula and I bring is we've seen kind of 2 sides of this coin that's kind of flipped a bit with marathon. It's much more accessible. You're seeing people take on the marathon challenge way more. The numbers are going crazy. People are believing they can do it. Technology is helping encourage them. And one of the things I've loved about what we've done is I've loved hearing everyone else's story and journey with it. Yeah. And it's kind of a way of kind of the connection of the elites and the masses and bringing us all together, because we're all sharing the same common goal. And that's one of the things I've really loved. And Paula does keep me under control.
We balance it as well though, don't we? Yeah. Because in all honesty, I kind of found the marathon, loved it from the first moment and really found my event. And I think Tomo kind of comes at it from the other side. He kind of took a little bit of not a hate to it to begin with, but it took a little bit of time for you to really fall in love with it, didn't it? So I think we kind of balance those 2 sides of it, and there's we can kind of then match and maybe hand out that advice a little bit to people and be able to see that. But I think Tom is right. Seeing people grow with it. People like, give an example of Nicola Carragher, who had never really thought about running a marathon. And then she signed up to do the majors, realized they added Sydney, added that one on as well, and has actually just like really inspired so many people and raised a huge amount for Old Hay Children's Hospital in that journey. And it's those kind of people that we're getting to meet through the community. And we're doing a first shakeout in Newcastle before the Great North as well, which we're really excited about, because that's like a step on from the podcast. And we're actually just bringing together that community just for a jog and a gossip and ask the last minute advice and tips for the Great North course. And just to get people excited.
I think what always blows my mind is when you take people that haven't done sport at an elite level, they think they can't relate to elite runners. And there's so much relatability. Like, it's the same thing.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
You know, fundamentally
totally
pushing yourself and finding your limits. It doesn't matter whether you're doing it at the Olympics or at a mass participation.
It's
I was going to say, because one of the things I think, I'm touching my first. I always get told off for that by our producer. So sorry, I do. It's because this beard's getting long. But one of the things that I think that we all as athletes go on a journey with is, and this includes other event groups, is when we enter the sport at a young age, we kind of get stripped down to our raw emotion when we're trying to make ourselves the best athlete we can. And I think that makes us seem almost not robots, but a bit robotic at times, because we've kind of stripped ourselves down and built ourselves up to make us into this kind of hopefully winning machine. And I think the parodies with marathon running is everyone can go on a journey to kind of strip themselves down emotionally and physically and build themselves up into a much more confident person who feels they can achieve anything in life, because the spillover from sport into everyday life is very apparent. And I think that's the message that elites kind of can broadcast, and I think the mass participants are starting to kind of understand what's in it for them. And I think stripping ourselves down and building ourselves up to feel like I one of the things when I was a kid, I was zero tolerance on public speaking. No chance. And
no way. I don't believe this.
Honestly, I was so shy. Because my son starts school next week and Gemma's really worried. And I said, don't worry, Gem. I was the most unpopular kid all through school, very shy. And I still am in terms of unpopular. But that's not the point. It's the fact that sport's given me a bit of confidence I never had. And that's not mutually exclusive to elites. Yeah. That's to anyone that challenges themselves and finds a way to go, I've just proved myself I can do something. And that, for me, is such a strong message to go, whatever your next boundary is, you achieve it, you go, wow, I feel good about that. It's like when Theo learnt to ride a bike last week, his face lit up. And we can learn a lot from kids to go, we constantly encourage kids to kind of challenge themselves and do more. And when we get older, we forget to do that sometimes. And I think, why? Find something we have never done before and try and do it. And and running is that beautiful way of going, oh wow, I've run a marathon, or I've run a half marathon, if that's the gateway, or a 10K. Go slightly off point, but I think it's a very beautiful journey you can go on with yourself when you kind of explore these kind of things that seem unattainable, but actually in reality we all can kind of look at it together in a community sense.
Yeah, and throwing it forward to the world champs.
Yeah,
sorry.
It is kind of the one event that the public watching at home can relate to. That and probably the 5K, because they'll go, my park park runs this, and they're running that.
Or just 5K splits.
Yeah, exactly. yeah, within the marathon.
Yeah, it's just mad. I mean, just before we get on to the World Championship preview, the thing I really like about your podcast as well is the fact that when it came along around the London Marathon, I think as someone that runs marathons as well, not very well, I think I get frustrated with the cycle in the UK, where we almost think it's just all built around the London Marathon, and then it sort of just disappears again till the next build up to the next London Marathon. And the fact that you guys have come back for the second series, and you sort of helped people to continue that journey, because a lot of people will do one and done. Right, a lot of charity runners, they just look at it and go, that was absolute hell. I never want to put another pair of running shoes on ever again. And for others, it can be the start of the journey for the rest of their life, right? Because you just fall in love with it. I mean, it took me a while as well, Chris, that I really struggled to get into. And now I can't really go a day without running, because it would just get to me too much.
Even when I tell you not to because you've got a sore knee.
Yeah, you did do that today, and I did, and I paid the price.
He still went out anyway.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
all those years of experience.
Listen to Catherine Merry's episode. She says the same thing.
Yeah.
She says exactly that. We're the worst listeners to niggles and stuff like that. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, but yeah, I just love the fact that you can help people continue that journey. I think. It's
we
really
loved. We just had fun doing it, and we thought it was going to be one stint, and then we were like, "How's it?" It flew by, and then we had so many people kind of reaching out, and even when I was running in Tokyo, in Boston, people were running alongside me saying, we're listening to it. And so I think it was that community that we just loved, and so we thought, let's try and grow this going forward to kind of encompass anyone. So it does still relate to marathons, but we are now like a run club rather than a marathon run club, but we'll focus in around different seasons.
Yeah, sounds good. Right, let's get into the World Championships. You've already mentioned, Paula, you've run in Tokyo already this year.
Mm-hmm.
So you would have got a bit of a gauge about the excitement levels perhaps for the World Championships, and also just about a real feel, I guess, of just how huge running as a sport, as a recreational sport is out there. It's massive, isn't it?
It is. It's totally like it's the football. Of the UK in Japan, that's what it is. It's their blue ribbon sport. Predominantly the marathon. Ekidon's huge as well, but even the Ekidon is essentially based on the marathon. It's just that distance broken down. And so kids from school age are racing in Ekidons and learning about the marathon. The tradition they have through Olympic marathons, particularly on the women's side, World Championships, world record holders, is huge. And I think it was a big point for the Tokyo Olympics that they perhaps didn't have the success there that they'd hoped to with a home one. And I certainly think there is that kind of support for that from the community and from the national supporters who will be out there lining the routes. I mean, I was hearing this morning about the tickets being sold out actually for marathon morning in the stadium. And that is purely because they are coming in to watch the finish of that marathon, and making it an iconic stadium finish, I think is brilliant, because too often it's kind of pushed aside at World Champs, and absolutely it won't be here. The walks as well will finish in the stadium. And that's, I think, really key to remembering, because that's what we all love about athletics. It is everything from pole vault to triple jump to marathon to race walks. It's all of those events, and the diversity of it is what keeps it so interesting, I think, for everyone.
Should we talk about the conditions though? Because I think because when you were there, it was, so we're talking about a month earlier ish.
Yes.
So because it was so hot, it was moved to Sapporo instead. So we are like looking at temperatures which could be, they say something like feels like 45 or something silly. And that is tough.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpick with the Tokyo thing, so I'll just try and pick a couple of bits. But because we did spend a bit of time in Tokyo before we went to Sapporo, so we kind of, not for long, but we got some kind of a reduction in heat feeling, if that makes sense. Went high, then came down. Not because of the pandemic, we couldn't do a huge amount. And when we got to Sapporo, we couldn't really do much running at all, in terms of we were stuck in we were in a very small confined space. So I think the first comparison now is the fact that we were quite restricted in how well we could prepare around going in, because one of the big things that, I know you've not asked me this, was time change in hindsight. A lot of people talk about the actual time change being one of the big issues, because people couldn't go across sooner, especially that were coming from the UK kind of side. I mean, it was a long flight, and it's all going in a
bad
time, in a bad way for time change. So I was racing in the middle of the night. So I think it was quite, I don't know, it almost became a marathon for me because of the circumstances. I felt very unprepared for conditions, time and things like that. I felt fit, but it was quite a challenge in that sense. And I did have on the way back, I was talking to Abdi, the American athlete, and he just made a throwaway comment. And this sounds really doesn't make me throw me in very good light here, but who cares? And we were talking about drinks, and I mentioned how I basically had an issue with my drinks. So they were cooling them, and the advice to me was don't have cold drinks because it can basically go through you. So in the moment I panicked, and there was a mix up of communication. So I kept getting cold drinks, going, no, warm them up. I ended up doing the whole race with no drinks at all. Oof. And I had the wrong drinks anyway. So there's different varies of sort of concentrations. And I spoke to Abdi on the way back, and he said, we used all these. So a lot of athletes were using completely different, I don't want to say the brand, but the same brand, but different kind of mixtures. And I was totally, I don't know. I feel it sounds really bad because I wasn't prepared, but the thing is now, with the way drinks are and the way athletes can prepare, I think, yes, these things are going to be a challenge, but I think that these athletes come in and it will come down to, it's one of the few variables left where people who prepare the best will be able to win. It's like Callum Hawkins in 2019. He was so meticulous in preparing for that heat in Doha and finished fourth. And I'm still to this day gutted he didn't medal. And I think that this weather will be extreme, but it will be. It's possible for athletes with the drinks and the preparation that they hopefully will be able to manage it. And 45 is a lot, but it's
It will be the athletes who have prepared the best, as Chris said, and who are in great shape and also don't allow the outside things that are outside of their control to stress them. So you can't stress about the temperature because it's the same for everyone. You just have to make sure that you've got your drinks right, that you're going to be picking them up, that you make sure that you get those, you have a contingency plan in place if you miss one, and that you stay really, really, really well hydrated kind of coming into the race as well. And those cooling techniques, things like that. And really just, I think they've got to keep first and foremost in the head, it's the same for everybody. And the more you stress about it, you're just burning energy. And it's not doing you any good because everybody's still got to deal with it anyway. So it will be the most chilled.
Yeah,
who do well.
With these conditions like this. I was going to say, like at pacing, how we're going to see athletes getting it really wrong. We haven't perhaps touched on the course and the elevations and stuff like that, but the conditions. If you go off too hard in these conditions, you're going to pay for it double.
But that's what the best marathon runners don't run, and I guess we've talked about it over and over on the pod, but running to splits and running to training splits is a bad idea. You need to learn to run to feel. So it's almost, I'm not going to say it's useless, but championship marathon racing, looking at the clocks, it's not really going to happen. I mean, there's championship records might get beaten. I mean, I said it in 2005 in Helsinki in nice conditions. It stood for a very long time because they were in warm places. And I think times are the last thing on anyone's mind. It's just racing the conditions. So I don't think we'll see I might be proven wrong, but I don't think we'll see anyone attack from the start. I think we'll see some caginess, certainly in the first half. They'll get out to the loop. They've got two of those. It's 2 of a 13K loop, isn't it? They'll run around that, and they'll be able to then kind of get to know the drinks tables and areas around that. They will have a huge amount of support, as we said, like more than probably in any other country out on the routes. They will have a phenomenal amount of support out there, which will really help them, but will make it hotter at street level as well.
But it's so different though. Like, so many marathon runners at elite level now are coming into the sport really young, so they haven't come in like you guys with a track career first, who are used to running in these championship races and used to the tactics. They're coming in basically running in paced races all the time. So how do those athletes sort of hold their nerve? And in this situation, does it benefit those athletes that may have had a little bit of a career on the track first?
I think it. I'm going to let you come in as well, Tom. Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's quite hard to almost know where to start, isn't it? Like, if you don't have a time in mind, like, what do you? How do you go off?
Again, it's some of the athletes, and the marathon really brings together such a range. And even those that are successful, those that medal, there will be some who have no clue about any of their competitors, and there will be others who know the main contenders who are likely to be there. It's different to a track race. I mean, we had Mo on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about the fact that when in a track race, he would know who would be the main contenders. In the marathon, you have an idea, but some of them could be in shape, could not be in shape. So you have to kind of know who they are when they come alongside you if they're in the group, but you always have to be ready for the person you've never heard of who's in there having a blinder and just really, really ready, because people don't race a lot coming into marathons. So some will have raced, some we won't have seen maybe even this year, and they will just be coming in and racing there. And unless you hear gossip about how people have been going and those rumours out there, it's really hard to tell that. And we've seen people go and commit, and they'll still be with the lead pack till halfway, and then they'll just stop. So it's not like you can even read on their faces they're struggling.
But you're getting a different breed of athlete now, I think, as well. Like you've touched upon the youth of athletes coming, so they're not doing the usual pathway of serving their apprenticeship on the track and then going to the marathon. It's not just the naivety of running. I think it's also the freshness of youth, which is handy when you go to the marathon. But I think it's all been made possible by the advances in technology. And I think the knock-on of the technology and bringing athletes in earlier into the event, it's also brought about a different way of approaching training. I know you're going to play a video in a bit, which I think highlights this through Emile, of literally it feels like athletes today will throw the kitchen sink at their body and fitness to prepare for events. There's, like it's literally how much can you tolerate before you stand on a start line. And then when you get to the actual race, you just literally throw yourself into it like you do in training, because that's just how you've kind of created that inner training strength. But I also think what we're starting, and because of that, what we're seeing is two things, two extremes. One, athletes who do hold themselves are suddenly taking off in the last 5K. We've seen that with Sarway. We've seen that with other athletes where they suddenly, Hassan in Sydney, just turn a screw and off they go, because they're just pent up fitness, and some of these athletes, their last 5Ks, last 10Ks is off the charts, incredible. And we would rarely see that. Or the other extreme, you're seeing athletes fall apart, like in New York, the athlete that was way ahead. And I think and in the championship sense, going back to this question about what's going to happen, I think what this weather will do, and because of the way athletes train and literally falling on their sword, to kind of take away the Japanese mentality of honor and integrity of how they go about training, I think no one is going to be safe. I don't care how big your gap is in Tokyo in the World Champs. If you've got 5K to go and you've got 2-minute lead, that doesn't mean you've won, because I don't think athletes you've got the panic of I'm leading or whatever it is, and 2 minutes doesn't feel a lot in a marathon when you're in that position. And secondly, just the way they go into the mentality is no one's safe till you cross that line. And that little bit of hike up to the stadium offers a little bit. I don't think the gradient is too. It just means that if it's kind of almost like a rhythm breaker. If you are redlining,
it's not where you want it, is it?
Exactly.
Yeah,
you have to be in control coming up that hill. If you're in control, it doesn't feel that bad. If you're running low on stores and you've just gambled a little bit too much, then it's not somewhere that you can hang on. I think we've seen that kind of exchange of reducing of a lead and exchange of a lead coming into the stadium like that. Because
you listened to your body, didn't you, Paul, a lot? Like when you were racing, you had that inner feedback, which I think I don't think athletes do that as much anymore. They just run.
To go back to Richard's point, I think it's like when you a lot of the traditional route was kind of through cross country, through the track, into the road and the marathon in particular. And for me, the biggest strength there was the cross country, because cross country times are completely irrelevant. You have to know that course inside out and backwards. You have to know your strengths on that course, and you have to manage your body to max out on that course. And that is, for me, the biggest learning that I carried into the marathon, and why I think that helped me in the marathon, because through the cross-country racing growing up, I was good at right, here's where I'm good on the course, here's where I'm not good, so I need to keep a little bit there. And I could tune into, instead of more looking at paces, I was looking at where I was in my body. Like, can I pick it up a little bit? Can I coast a bit? And kind of not really looking at the split times so much. And I liked that freedom of it, because I think for split times for me, even on a treadmill, I kind of hate running on a treadmill, because I don't run an even pace. Even if it's perfectly flat on the treadmill, I don't run an even pace. I still surge how I feel. And I think that's the kind of something that you need to use when you're racing marathons. And I think championship marathons, it is really about doing that to perfection, because the times are even less important. You don't have pacemakers in it, obviously, and you have to be able to make that call early on. And that's where I say a little bit of knowledge, and you have that coming into a championship race about who else is in there, because the main contenders in there will know if such and such goes off the front, I need to cover it. If someone goes off the front, I haven't really heard of them, I'm not sure they can do it, and I'm looking around and the other people that I have that respect for are with me, they might make the gamble to sit with it. And that's where someone unknown who is super well prepared has the advantage, because there is the chance that it's kind of like what Konstantina Dieter did going way back to Olympic Games in Beijing. And I didn't have the shape to go with it at the time. But I remember looking around thinking, why is no one covering this? Because she is someone that's known. She is someone that's medalled. You should all be trying to go with this. This isn't some unknown going off the front. And they just let her go. And she ended up being able to run away in, I guess, reasonably similar conditions to those which they will experience in Tokyo.
No, I love this. When I look at the difference between the marathon majors and the championships, it's like marathon majors are running a marathon. To your limit, and that's what the mass participants can relate to as well. You look at championship racing and you have to race a marathon, and that's a whole nother level of marathon competency, I think, going to be able to go and race and compete and make tactical decisions. But also I want to go back slightly to this hill, because you're the only person, Paula, out of the four of us that's actually seen this hill in Tokyo. I don't know, Tomo, if you got to go to the stadium after Sapporo.
I've seen the profile online, but I didn't.
But yeah,
I didn't go to.
Is it insignificant, Paula? You're someone that loves a hill, so I'm going to take whatever you say with a pinch of salt, because your idea of a hill is not my idea of a hill.
But this isn't, if you look at the profile, so I'll give you an example. Raf went on a training run from here yesterday, and he came back and he did a 10K run, and he told me I did 300 metres of elevation change. And I think we're looking at a 30-metre elevation change in this hill.
5K.
It's not big. It's really not
5K.
big. So it's like a gradual drop down, and then it's reasonably flat. I will say that when I ran in Tokyo, there are bits of Tokyo that are not flat, but they're not big hills either.
Okay.
It's just kind of, it's never completely flat. So it's not like even London is kind of a bit like that. It's undulating. It's never completely flat. There are always going to be some little ups and downs, some little bumps you'll be kind of running over.
So we're talking about it only really mattering
and things.
Yeah, only mattering if you're redlining, like you guys were saying.
The start's going to make zero difference. It will make it maybe a little bit quicker on the start, but everyone is kind of holding back anyway. And then the big thing is they will all have run over it, because they will run around that start and finish area in the few days before, so they'll know what's coming and what's in store for them at the end. They'll come off that loop and they'll be coming back up what they've essentially come down on the way out. So everybody knows about it. It's nothing that's going to be a surprise for anyone. And like we said before, I think the biggest factor is going to be if someone has overcooked it. It's just going to become more apparent. The unpicking and the unraveling will happen faster, because there is a pull in there, as well as the conditions. And I think it is the two together. If you just had warm conditions, no hill, you might be able to hang on if you've overcooked it a little bit, if you had the fitness behind you. But when you combine it with the hill, it will unravel quickly. And for the same reason, the hill in perfect conditions, I think people will just look at and dismiss it. But because it is in these warm conditions and humid, and that's what we haven't really talked about, the humidity, it makes it very, very tough. And I think what we need to be looking at when we get closer to it is kind of the dew point and where that sits that morning, and how that's going to affect the runners as well, because that is a big factor. It's how quickly that water is sapped out of your body. And for particularly a lot of the athletes coming from altitude, they're not used to the humidity. That's the biggest thing. They might have replicated the heat. They're not used to the humidity.
Yeah, I remember seeing as well at Budapest, I think it was Yelemzer Fuelor, who's actually in this race. I think she's in the Ethiopia team, isn't she? She went backwards very quickly. Again, similar kind of conditions. It was super hot, wasn't it, in Budapest? Very humid that day as well. Yeah.
And it is, and it was also, was it not Tola in Budapest as well?
Yeah, it was Tola.
Who kind of really hit the wall pretty hard. And again, I do think, because a lot of the Ethiopian team, as well. And they will stay in altitude. And probably, in fairness, like, everybody's known for a while that Tokyo is going to be warm, but Budapest kind of did surprise people a little bit. We weren't looking at quite so warm as it was, and it was really, really warm. And so I think that caught out some of the athletes preparing. Because that's why I say that I think the Japanese, they're the ones that will know these conditions the best. They will know that course inside out and backwards. They will have trained up that hill, and they will know how to judge that to perfection. So anybody that doesn't quite get it right, you need to be looking around and seeing, because we know what being on a home championships can do in terms of giving you that boost. They have the tradition in that, and they will have prepared for this race. Even the way you'll see them picking up their drinks. Everything will be, so you have a right, you pick up your drink every 5K. It will be manned, because it's a championships. It will be manned by your team officials to make sure that they can get it to you. And you can put what you like on that bottle so long as you pick it up together. And very often what the Japanese will have is kind of their drinks bottle and like a hoop over the top that's perfectly decorated so they know what it is. And either that'll be handed to them or they'll run through and put their arm through the hoop and carry on with it. And they will have their gels, they will have whatever they want to take taped to those bottles, and it will be down to perfection.
To add to that is like, because I think the weather is the thing, because when you look at Hassan recently in Sydney, she ran a 30 to 30. I was looking this up because I still can't get my head around some of these splits on a very hilly course. Now the hilliest marathon major, over 300 meters of climb. She ran 30 to 35k uphill in 15:46, 2 hours 13 pace. And you look at that and you go, is there a course hilly enough for people to worry about? And I think that's why when people mentioned Tokyo and the hill, I was a bit like, really? Like, look at Boston, look at New York, look at what
Paris last year.
Yeah,
look at Paris last year. It wasn't, they're not affecting the race as much as they used to. It's the weather. And it's like Paula says, that I totally agree. Look out for the Japanese athletes because they'll be so prepared. They'll be so used to it. I go back to Callum Hawkins in 2019. I think Doha, people knew it was going to be tough, but it just shows you that there's preparing and there's really preparing. And I think those that get the fluids on, get that. And again, the one other curveball I was going to add when you were talking, I was thinking about it, Paula, at a World Champs, athletes will have in their head it's medal or nothing. And so they will stay there. Even if they're redlining, they won't be thinking, I'll just pull back to make sure I'm top 10. Yeah. They'll be going, I'm staying at this until I'm either going to medal or I'm going to win or nothing. And that's when you see, like going up the hill in Paris, Emile took that stance just to be a little bit back. And I think Bashir did a bit, but I think that was to do with his knees, I think, from Paula from Gary's. And then they picked up a few on the other side because a few athletes were like, I'm winning this or nothing. And then it was all changed in the last couple of K. And that the world champs are saying, you'll see the Ethiopian team, they'll all be thinking medals. The Kenyan team, all be thinking medals. And then that athletes are ordinarily, if it was a big city marathon where it matters, money matters to come 6th or 7th or not finishing. In a major champs, it really does become like all or nothing for a lot of these. And if that heat, you'll see a lot of athletes. I wouldn't be surprised if the athletes stop. I've been in London Marathon and I've seen athletes stop with a mile to go, and you think it's a mile, and I'm like, that's how much you can red line this time. In the world champs, there could be the last 5k could be messy, really messy because of the weather.
But with that in mind, just before we get into just some of the main contenders, and we'll talk about Emile in a minute as well, how difficult is it for a lot of these athletes to decide to go to a major championships instead of the majors around the same time? So like you say, we've just had Sydney. We're not going to see Sifan Hassan in Tokyo, which is a real shame.
And she talked about it, didn't she? She talked about the fact that was a really, really tough decision to make, because I think Sifan is someone who just loves the challenges. And I think, if I'm being honest, when she ran 2:13:44 in Chicago, her sights were set on that world record, which at the time was 2:11:53, 54. And I think she thought that was totally doable. Then those goalposts got moved. And then she set the goals of Paris. And I think now she's really decided, no, I'm actually going to go for victories that excite me, challenges that inspire me. And she's always been like that. And that's why we love her so much. And so I think she talked about the fact that it's really, really tough, particularly given the success she had in Tokyo, for her not to go back for these world championships. But I think she was inspired by trying something new and kind of going to Sydney and doing what she did. But it does leave it wide open this time.
I mean, that's what she's done, but then others have then skipped the world championships as well, and then who could have gone for a title, likes of Jacob Kiplemo is going to be in Chicago, for example. Tamrit Tola's going to Amsterdam, so instead of defending his title, Sarway in Berlin. Exactly that. Yeah. So it's making those decisions. It's quite tough though, isn't it? Because you to try, you do want to go and win the gold medal at the World Championships, but the financial rewards, we know that all the money in athletics is on the roads.
Yeah, and I think that's why a lot depends on the athlete and what they see as the challenges, and also how it's seen and supported in their home countries. And I think particularly for Kenya and Ethiopia, they have such strength and depth there, and they're kind of like, well, doesn't matter who we send, we'll win it. So their top athletes might well choose, right, I'm going to go and run fast. If you want to go and attack a time, then you're not going to do that in a championship. And so I think it is people fitting in what works for them, the exception being the Olympics, because most athletes, even though there's no prize money there for the Olympics, they will choose to go and do that because it is the Olympic Games. The World Championships is every 2 years. You can kind of pick and choose. So I think for most marathon runners, you'll want to do it once during your career. It's not something that you're going to want to do every time the World Champs comes around. And I think that will certainly, winning it last time in the Olympics will have made it easier for Sifan Hassan to say, you know what, okay, I've won the Olympics. I'm fine to go and do something else. I think she was probably talking about the fact she would have liked to race on the track, and she just couldn't mix those two.
I just feel like she maybe was thinking about that when she entered the mile at the Diamond League in London. That was still definitely, I mean, it's obvious that was still on the agenda, wasn't it? Potentially.
Well, I think she, at heart, she loves it. And we're chatting to her, she loves that racing on the track. But she's also very, very good at the marathon, but I'm not sure she loves it in the same way that she did on the track. So I think she's kind of recognised that, and I think she wanted to race some of the track, but the way it fell this time, she would, of course, have had to race in Sydney and then bounce back to run on the track. And that way around, it doesn't work. The other way round, had Sydney been 10 days afterwards, that could have worked. But this way around, it didn't work.
No, and well, one guy we're super excited that has decided to do the championship marathon is Emile Cairess, and that 4th place finish in Paris was such a breakthrough. And I think what can we expect from him when we look towards Tokyo?
I mean,
can I say it in a word?
Do it.
A lot.
I think he
Is
can
that
medal.
2 words? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did I say no? Yeah. Medal. I was just saying, I think he can, because again, it comes back to his meticulousness around preparation, and he's also with his coach Canova. He seems to have found a rhythm. He's done a few marathons now. He's building up his marathon portfolio. He wasn't just impressive in Paris in a physical outcome and performance. His maturity around it was, for me, every now and again, I just get a bit of there's a buzz around an athlete and how their relationship with the marathon. You're one of them, Paula. Your relationship with that marathon and how you run and how you look. It's like she's at home. And Emile screams that to me. He's at home with this marathon. He's not, and I think Kip Limo's fantastic. I think he's and I think he will be, but I'm still kind of getting rid of the fact he's a half marathon 10K runner in my head. And I think he still needs to prove it to himself. He showed that in London, the way he kind of gave Sawe that bit of respect in the last 5K. But Emile, he just is like, I'm going to make myself the best, not just the best marathon runner, but he is passionate about being a medalist on a world stage. And I think I just want to go a little bit back to when you mentioned all those names that are not running the World Championships. I think, one, it's a shame, because are we ever going to really see them all together in a race ever? Because you're not going to, it's very difficult. London's the one place where they try to get all the big names together, but it's A, expensive, and B, hard to get everyone fit on the same day. And that's where the Olympics or the World Champs tends to be the place you get that. And again, for an athlete, when they're selecting what they're selecting, they go, well, do I want to go up against, 10 athletes, massive name athletes in a World Champs, and risk getting nothing for all my efforts and 3 months out of my calendar for nothing when it's win or nothing? Or do I go to a city marathon and guarantee? And that's where I think, for me, going back to Emile, he's such a purist. And I think that's what I love about him. And I don't think I'm misplaced in saying I hope he medals. I think he can medal. When you look at that start list, yes, there's some good athletes, but you can straight away start stripping it back, going, well, they're probably an athlete that if they'll go for the win, and if they hit the red line, they're gone. And you can start whittling it down, and you see if he's smart and he drinks and he does all the right things, I don't think he'll be Millen White. And my final point, because I like to go on, is he'll get from A to B in the most efficient way because he listens and he won't.
And he learns.
And so I think he will, with 5K to go, 40K to go, if he's lying in 20th, he's one of the athletes that will pick up places and come. He's never out of it. Like some athletes have never won it. He's the opposite. He's never out of it like he was in Paris. So, yeah, that's not a word. But
I'll tell you what,
you can't fit it on a bumper sticker, but it's,
No, I mean, I think it's going to be a big, tough ask for him, but I think everything that Thomas said is completely possible. I mean, he'll know looking back at it, and he will have gone over it in his head where he had pushed hard up that hill in Paris, and think he'll have learnt from that, and he will judge this course really well. He'll know the people that he's racing, but not so well that it takes away from him just being able to focus on him. And I think that's what Tom is kind of alluding to there. In a way, he reminds me a lot of John Brown. There's no frills, there's no messing around. It's just get out there and perform. And he's only focusing on his own performance. And that is a strong position to be in the marathon, because the one thing that you can control is your own. You can't control any of the other variables in there, and you can't worry about them too much, but you have to factor them in. And that's what he's very, very good at, even to the extent that he'll be running in his Casio watch and there'll be no particular fancy stuff coming back to him. It will be tuning into feel, as we talked about. And that is a huge strength.
Let's hear from him, basically summarising exactly what you were just saying, Paula.
Yeah, I think I haven't looked at the course too much. Renato said it's gradually down the first 5, 6. Yeah, I've looked at the course map, but I've not seen like the elevation thing. And then you slide back up, the last 5, 6. But I think in all these races, like, you have to be really fit. I think that's I think that's way more important than anything else. So I'm just trying to get as fit as I can before the day, and hopefully then it'll put me in good stead. I think obviously praying the heat, I think you do have to be prepared for that. But I think in terms of elevation and stuff, like, I don't think you should put too much emphasis on that in your training. Just focus on about being fit, and then I think that's the best kind of insurance policy. If you're feeling easy, then the course will feel easier, rather than, it doesn't matter if you're really prepared for hills, but you're on the red line at 25k, then the hill's going to feel hard anyway.
So that is Emile, and you can hear the whole interview. It's on the podcast feed. We published it last week. Okay, and he just seems so chilled out, doesn't he? And he's laser focused. The big goal is become Olympic champion in LA, and it's all building towards that point. That is what he's fully motivated about. And when it comes to all these obstacles in his way, he's just... it's just like, well, whatever. That's just the course, isn't it? Basically.
he was. I remember him. In my latter days, I was obviously training a lot in Bushy Park in Teddington, and I would pass him regularly, and he was quite often on his own, just in his little. I get laughed at for calling it my mind palace, or like your runner's headspace, where you're just running, and he was just someone who just loved getting out there and getting on with it. And just when you're a student, you can easily get pulled left, right and centre with bad habits or whatever it was. And he was so focused even at that point. I don't know if he had the thought, I want to be Olympic champion then. I have no idea. But I wouldn't put him past him to think, I want to be a runner and I want to take this as far as I can. And you could see it even then when I just would pass and he would just be just off round and round doing loops. And I just thought, wow, this guy loves it, and I had a real admiration for him when I saw him just pinging it around. I couldn't keep up with him, but obviously.
It's almost like he doesn't need anything else, does he? He's quite happy. That's his goal. He's mentioned it, but I wouldn't say he's gone on about it. He hasn't boasted about it or thrown it out there. He's just quietly plugging away, and you can totally see his mindset is basically, I'm just going to give it my best shot, and I'm just going to keep giving it my best shot for as long as I can and see what I can do. And I think that is a really, really strong mindset to have in the marathon. So it's not going to be easy by any means in Tokyo. And I think he fully knows that, particularly when you factor in all the other variables that can just happen in a marathon. But I think Tom is right. If he wakes up feeling good, if his preparation's gone well and he's 100% on race day, the others are going to have to be 110% to match him.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about some of the other contenders generally. And you were talking already about how we should watch out for the Japanese athletes because they're going to know all about the conditions. Well, if you look at some of the squad announcements in terms of Kenya and Ethiopia especially, it's kind of geared around who's done Tokyo before, who's raced in Tokyo before. You've got Sutume Estefa, who is the two-time Tokyo champion in this is the major marathon over the last 2 years. You've got Tadesse Dekele, who is the Tokyo champion now as well. You've got Peres Cheptegei, who's back from injury. She had to pull out of London because she had an ankle injury, I think it was in London. And she's the Olympic champion from, I know Sapporo, but from the Olympic Games that were in Japan. So there's just a lot of experience there, isn't there, in terms of racing those conditions. And on top of that, you've got the former world record holder Tigges Estefa, and in some people's minds, still the world record holder too.
Yeah, I mean, on that, I don't know.
Say what you want. Say what you want.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've long been of the view that, like, if you are caught at any point, you should forfeit everything that happened beforehand, regardless of whether that can be proven or not. That should happen. I guess the only exception to that is on whereabouts, because there's no actual proof of direct cheating, even though if they get caught on whereabouts, there's a doubt there as well. And but I do have an argument there. Once somebody is banned for doping, you should go back and remove all of the medals and records that have been held before, because you've tainted your whole career anyway. So yeah, there is that argument to be had there. But I think more than that, Estefa has proven herself in championships. I mean, that battle in Paris coming in, so that's why she is in that team, because she has proven herself to get ready for the championships as well as running the fast times. And I think when you've got that double whammy, if you're capable of running a fast time and racing in championships, that's why Sifan Hassan is as dangerous as she is. That's why Tola has that respect, because he can run fast and he's very good at getting ready for the championships.
And Estefa is one of those that we also said before. We're talking about you making a decision about whether you go for a major or you go for a championship. And Estefa it was rumoured eyeing up another world record attempt in Berlin, but she decided instead to go for the championship instead. I just wonder how much the Paris Olympics sort of weighed on her in that kind of respect. She wants to go and get that gold medal. I mean, I think it's one of the moments of the Paris Olympics was that sort of the elbow to elbow, the contact at the end with Hassan, and the absolute determination that, they both wanted it so much.
Yeah, and so I do think that is a factor. The other way of looking at it is that she wasn't in shape to go and run a world record.
That's true.
And so instead she's going to the world champs, which is better for the other women in that race.
Yeah, I was going to say, Rich has romanticised this.
I'm building storylines.
Yeah.
The thing as well with Estefa, when you look at her journey, is she's actually not run that many, and they've all what she has done has been very impressive. Because when we watched her in London, and she lost to Perez, she actually hadn't really been in a race as such, because she was around just lots of guys in Berlin, and he almost got lost in the crowd. And so that was kind of her first experience of kind of racing. And so when she raced Hassan, I actually think she just happened to come up against one of the most craziest racers in modern time, and she got on that. But actually, she's actually learn off London, learn off that, and how, because Perez is very good at a finish. She's won some London when there's 4 or 5 of them all together. So I think I wouldn't be surprised. Partly it might be she's not in shape to run a world record, but partly she's got the confidence to know I can actually run quick and I can also win in a scrappy scenario. And it's almost like you're proving that to yourself as well. It's knowing you stand on the start line of any race, knowing however way that race goes, I know I can win is quite a powerful mindset. And I wouldn't be surprised there's an element of she needs to get that. Is it monkey off the back or elephant? Whatever the animal is.
I was waiting for an animal. I was hoping we were going to get an animal.
I can't remember the animal. Is it cat? Is it dog? Whatever animal.
I think you're okay with the monkey on your back.
Was it monkey off your back?
You actually got that first.
Whatever animal stop. Whatever it is. I can't remember. So I will
say if she's got an elephant on her back, she's going to struggle.
She is. Yeah. Some might get.
That's where the hill comes into play, isn't it?
Tortoise and hare. I was waiting for the tortoise and hare.
Well, yeah. Because I don't know if you guys thought this. I think you can read a lot into someone's emotions and personalities and I honestly, in hindsight, and at the time, I think it was obvious. Estefa in London had a real bee in her bonnet, losing Paris. She went there with and I that's why I think the narrative of going to the Worlds to undo last year, I still think that's a strong thing in her head, and champions do that. They rewrite wrongs in their mind. She feels like she should have won it at the Olympics, and this is part of that healing process to go, no, I'm going to go and win the world as a F you to the world and that monkey, whatever animal it is. I don't know. There's just, do you know what I mean? It's just that
monkey.
To fit your narrative or storyline. I think there is something to it. I think.
No, and I think we're really lucky to have Tigista Sefer and Perles Chepchirchir wanting to do this marathon here. I think that those two, the way that they, like you said, Paula, they've got the fast times and the ability to run the tactical races. And you see those two are so competent, but. I loved when you two were talking about if someone thinks they're going to get a medal, that they stick in there longer than they should. And when you've got two big people like that as well from different nations, they won't know how the training's going. They're not in the same training camp. Could you see those two almost like pushing each other past the limit, just going at it, and then kind of screwing each other up?
Potentially, but I think they're both too experienced to do that. You can't in the marathon. You just can't afford to do that. You always have to have the little petrol gauge going in your mind of what I've got left. And you can't mess with that until the final couple of 100 meters. So that's why we saw that all out in Paris like that, because at that point, it's literally like, just give everything that I've got, even if I'm crawling across that carpet at the end. But before that, I think the real champions you have to know. You can gamble a little bit. You can think, all right, if I've got a bit of a surge in me, I can push it and start to wind it up this hill and test. And you might have a couple of tests, but you know how many you've got. And you're not going to throw in another two just for the hell of it, because that would just be a stupid thing to do, because even though they are all trying to win it, the next best thing is not to throw away a medal as well. So you've got to keep gauging it. And that is the kind of the poker bit of the marathon, is you need to be able to try and hide what you've got left from the people around you, particularly in a championship. And either, I guess I'm saying this, but I was really rubbish at hiding anything on my face. So that's why I was usually gone before then, because trying to hide what you've got left is really hard. But I did a lot of the women I had to race, and I'm thinking of someone like Gaitawami, extremely good at not showing any sign of strain on her face. So you'd be looking around, you'd be listening, all of the little telltale signs about the breathing, the foot strike, all of those little things which give you that information. They're tiring. The intakes of breath. She would give none of those, and then suddenly just gone. And so you had to learn to know those tells or lack of tells and not to get stressed about it. So when you're turning the screw and you're trying to ask the questions in those little, and that's what I think we will see in Tokyo. We'll see the athletes testing each other out a little bit up that hill. So they will use the hill for that, to see who responds, who feels like it's taking them a split second longer to respond, who's struggling a little bit, who's gasping for that last drinks bottle. All of those little things will play into it. And that's why I love, and I think we're privileged to be in the position that we're in now, sitting commentating on it, because you can watch all those little tells and it's like you kind of see that, but they're trying to gauge it from within the race. And that's a harder thing to do, to be able to do all of that and keep on top of your own. And it's going to be fascinating. And I'm excited to think about it.
A safer will think she can out sprint her though, won't she?
There's also Satumi as safer as well. We've got to put her in the mix, because she's won the last two Tokyo marathons. And I mean, again, back to the Chepin-Gesic thing, she was second in Chicago last year. So again, is she everyone's real winner? Maybe, but she's had a real massive leap in times in the last year. She's a 2:15 high. I think her PB from last year, I think it was. So, I mean, it's not just about those two. So there's plenty that are in the mix who are ready to. If they want to be too obsessed with each other, well, they're going to come right through.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they will be obsessed with it. I think they'll know each other, and I think you're right, Tomo. I think in her head, certainly going into Paris, she had that, I was a 800 meter runner way back. I'm quick. you forget Sifan Hassan has run 1:56. So she is like
often you sub 2 female 800 metre runner.
I see your like semis or heats in Rio, and like you can just get behind me there. So, and also as we talked about, Sifan Hassan just has that. It's almost Mo Farah-esque. I'm not going to be beaten. I think if she's going to make a bid for it, she's going to make it further out. And what Cairess is very good at is kind of that wind up, little bit of a raise, back it back a little bit, go again. She's good at doing that and kind of just eking away from the field and getting it right. And we've yet to see like a Safer get that right in the closing stages. She can run away from them before then, but to get it perfectly right in a very, very tight down to the line, she's still learning to do that.
And she hasn't been, I don't think a Safer compared to Cairess has been tested in quite those conditions as well, which is another big factor in this. So in terms of how that plays out, it comes back to the weather will be the leveller. It's the one thing left in, I think, in marathon running, which is the variable that really messes things up. I think, and that's why I think that's where championship marathons should, be run in a desert, but
without a pacemaker.
Without a pacemaker. But do you know what I mean? It just because it will offer variables and excitement for the watcher and tough for the athletes.
Just lastly, on Emile, so we said that Tomo, you were already saying that you think he can medal. Who does he need to get past? Because you've got the top 3 from the Tokyo Marathon here. You've got Tadesse Dekele, Teresa Galeta, Vincent Ngetic. I think he was originally due to run Sydney and Ngetic, but he's decided instead to go for the championship. So it's going to be a tough task. I mean, he can definitely break into that, though.
Yeah, I think. Do you know what?
So hard.
Do you know what I will say?
That's why I love it. That's why.
I will say this,
especially champs.
Yeah, I will say this that I'm going to answer this how I think Emile would answer it.
Go on.
Cool. You're not going to put on an accent. No,
definitely not. I would be cancelled instantly. Yeah, I can only do 2 accents, and I'm not telling you what they are, and they're not very good. Anyway. I think Emile will not even think about the names. People almost be numbers to him, and so I think, especially with marathon running, like one of the biggest issues you've got is we can in the past we could have been quite obsessed with PBs. But the reality is a PB doesn't tell a full story anymore like it used to, because there's so many different marathons. I mean, you get a lot of athletes that will only race on very fast courses. So the 2:18 in Sydney, to go back to it, what Sifan Hassan did in Sydney, 2:18, I think that will stand for a long time as a course record, but 2:18 doesn't hit the headlines of a fast time. And so when you look at some of these PBs and stuff like that, you really have to delve into it to go, how much of a challenge they are because of where they set it, condition, all these different things. And I think Emile won't get too wrapped up in about it because they're all just effectively a name, a number and a vest and a pair of trainers grabbing drinks. And I think he'll do a lot of what Paula said just now, talking about those intricate details of reading the athlete in the moment. And so I know that's not necessarily interesting for the commentator or to talk about names, and we like to delve it back, but I just thought it's nice to that's what I love about Emile. I think Emile will just see people as another vest, take them as they come on the day, and know that someone might have a 2:02 PB and he's got 2:05, 2:06 is irrelevant. I think he'll see it as just another athlete, and he'll have a rough idea of what to expect to numbers. Yeah, there'll be probably 10 athletes that if we're going at 2:07.8 pace, he knows there'll be a good 12 athletes or whatever that at that pace. That's not the issue. But you're trying to whittle out in the moment the athletes that are going to be seeing it through, reading those things. So apologies if I'm not delving into it answered necessarily in the way, but I think for championship it's so important to be a bit like that and not get too obsessed with what someone's PB is or what their record is, because it can really mess with you, because you're almost looking at reasons why you can't beat someone by doing that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, it does. And I think, I for one, a championship marathon is so fun. Like, it's still 26.2 miles. It's still what we see, the mass participation guys do, the World Marathon Majors do. But a championship marathon is something different. It's something a bit more special, where you're right, Tomo, you throw that form book out the window. And it's been so fascinating. Thank you so much, Chris Thompson and Paula Radcliffe, to get your thoughts on the marathon distance and the nuances of a championship marathon, particularly this one coming up in Tokyo. So if you enjoyed hearing from Tomo and Paula, do check out Paula's Run Club. It is fantastic, their podcast. But thank you, both of you. Stop it. I will now. If you want to hear more of Paula, and you have to take some Tomo with it. But thank you both for joining us on Podium. It's been super fun.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.